Hi guys, time for a little Smart News Coffee Talk. I know, I'm excited. I've missed you. I've missed you. We have a little bit of personal news to share, then a little bit of news to share. But I wanted to jump on real quick to say thank you so much. I am so grateful for each and every one of you and all your support over the last several weeks. Just recapping, at the end of July, I gave birth to a little boy. His name is Truett. We call him True. He's doing great. I was really sick at the end of my pregnancy, really for that last month, and I wasn't getting any better. And I asked you, hey, I had big plans for Smarter News while I'm on maternity leave, but I'm really sick. What do you think about me taking the month of August off? And if you all hadn't encouraged me to take some time, cuddle with my baby and get better, I don't know if I would have. And I am eternally grateful for that. Not only did it give me time with True, but it also allowed me to figure out what was wrong with me. And it turns out, this is gonna sound crazy, turns out I actually was really sick, you guys. It wasn't just pregnancy. I have an intestinal parasite. I know. What are the chances of that? Not very high is the answer. But turns out this parasite lives on, fruits and vegetables, very tough to wash off, not necessarily dangerous, thank goodness not dangerous to the baby, but can make you really sick. You could get it and not know that you have it, but in cases like mine, you can have it for a couple months. And so I'm still dealing with this ordeal, and it just was bad luck. It was just bad luck. So I'm on the mend. I'm feeling so much better. I had no idea how bad I was feeling until I started to feel better. And again, without you, I don't think I would have taken the time. So thank you so much for that. As far as what's going on in September, we're getting Smarter News back up to the regular pace. We're not going to be at full force yet. Full force as far as some coverage, but we probably won't have coffee talk every single day. We're still trying to figure out the routine that works best in this new family atmosphere that I have, but you are going to see me quite frequently. We have some new content that we're going to be posting for you, and a brand new website refresh that's just being finished. I can't wait to show you as well. So a lot of things coming, and I only see amazing things ahead for all of us. So thank you for making this possible. Without you, it would not be possible. So thank you for that. All right, let me get to a little bit of news because something happened this weekend that I think you should know about. So I'm just going to give you a quick 3 things about this one topic because it really is the biggest topic out there. Over the weekend, America imposed another round of tariffs on Chinese goods. Now, this is important. We're seeing several rounds of tariffs on Chinese goods as part of this trade war that we have ongoing with China. And the reason why we have a quote unquote trade war is because the Trump administration wants better trade terms with China. Why do we want better trade terms? Well, it's big business. We're talking about the 2 largest economies in the world. And for a long time, America has complained about how American companies are treated in China, including things like stealing intellectual property, accusing the Chinese of stealing intellectual property as a way of cost of doing business in China. And the Trump administration has taken the stand that this needs to change, amongst a myriad of other things, and they want better terms. And the way that they're trying to negotiate to get better terms is to impose tariffs on Chinese goods. So the first round of tariffs that we saw over the last year or so were on items that likely you didn't buy very often, like an oven. I bought this oven last year. How often do you buy an oven? Not very often. Would I notice if the cost of an oven went up significantly? Probably not, because I don't really buy it that often. Hopefully you don't have to buy an oven very often at all. But the latest round of tariffs really are focusing now on consumer goods. These are the things that we really buy a lot from China, like clothing, shoes, costs associated with these everyday goods. Now, it sounds scary, but I think you should know that 2 economists have tracked the cost to American consumers over the last year to say, well, how much is this trade war really costing American consumers? And the cost has gone up. What they estimate by the end of this year, if another round of tariffs go in, or taxes, it would cost the American household, so your entire family, on average about $460 or $1.25 a day. Now, there are those that argue that the cost that's being passed on to the American consumer is going to be problematic for the consumer. And there are those that say we're going to be able to absorb that cost without changing our lifestyle or really becoming angry about the trade war. And emotion is important. You know, if you go into a store and you see prices suddenly skyrocket and you see the stock market volatile, you may start feeling different about the economy and change your spending habits. And that's a major concern for economists and politicians alike, because if you change your spending habits, that can lead us to a different sort of economy. This is where the questions of recession are coming up. We're going to do more on that, don't worry, either later this week or next. But that's what you need to know. New rounds of tariffs or taxes on Chinese goods went into effect September 1. A lot of these goods, about $100 billion of these imports, are goods that you would probably use pretty frequently. But whether or not the costs are really being passed on to you in a severe fashion that's going to affect your life is up for debate. Now, here's a big thing you should know. December 15th, mark your calendar. You should really have all of your holiday shopping done by then, because that's going to be another round of tariffs that is going to hit the remaining Chinese imports. I mean, these are things, again, like headphones. A lot of electronics could be affected by this. I saw one report that was talking about baby gear, like a high chair. You know, these are things that families are going to be using. And what I think is really interesting that I read is that there are some that believe that American companies that are selling these items have been able to kind of find a workaround already so that the costs won't be so directly passed on to the consumer. How long that can be sustained is a big question. You know, how long can companies figure a way, a workaround around some of these higher costs that are being passed on to them and then passed on to the consumer? Because it's not just about, a whole oven, for example. It's the parts that go in the oven. It's not just about the shoe. It's about the sole of the shoe that's coming from China. And so that's why these tariffs can really potentially impact the consumer. We just don't know what the impact is quite yet. One thing I see in the news that I want you to consider, and then we'll wrap up here, is that, there's a lot of questions again about, well, this trade war impacting the stock market. It's a worldwide slowdown in the economies. We're going to be headed towards recession. It's like all of this talk. And I don't know about you, but it gets a little scary sometimes. There's not a lot of talk about what happens if this works. What happens if the U.S. does negotiate better trade terms with China? What happens if U.S. companies, U.S. farmers get better deals? What happens if the end result is positive instead of negative? I think there's a lot of people thinking there's no end in sight to this, but we also don't know what's happening behind closed doors and whether or not this could produce a better result for all of us. So I want you just to keep that in mind. Like, yeah, there's a lot of questions about whether or not this is working, but we should also raise some questions about what happens if it does work. I mean, you have to entertain both possibilities. Right now, it's hard to know. All right, guys, let us know if you'd like us to cover any stories. You can direct message us on social media. You could always email us, info@smarternews.com. It's great to see you again, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye, guys.